He stayed in the hole. I couldn't stop it. Trying to give him a room where he could rest.
Okay. We've got everybody here, so we don't have to go through the thing about somebody being gone, but we do have the county board meeting is being live streamed. And so those people are online. I saw Gussie on there and I saw Becky Foss. So anyway, we will call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, brings us up to public forum. Does anybody wish to speak at public forum? Sir? Anybody online wish to speak at public forum?
Sure. I have something to say here, Steve, if that's.
Okay, go ahead, Gussie.
I haven't been at meetings last couple of times because I've had COVID, but so I'm catching up and I am seeing that there's a solid waste ordinance and I'm certainly hoping that that gets a lot of time at the board before it's ever brought to the public, because I just have visions of Dale Powers, you know where that is, and so do I. So I think there would be a lot of pushback on that. So just in advance, appreciate the time.
Thank you. Anybody else? We've got a couple of changes to the agenda. Oh, what did I do with my changes? Dave, you want to go over
Sure.
those?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have some additions. If we could add to the consent agenda, consideration of resolution 2022-22 extending septic fix-up special assessments. And if we could add approval of or consideration of resolution 2022-25 approving the application for a premise permit for the Moose Lake Area Hockey Association to conduct lawful gambling. And then on the regular agenda, if we could add item 5.1, National Child Care Provider Appreciation Day, and item 5.2, National Foster Care Appreciation Month. And then item number 9, if we could add under Commissioner Updates, Insurance Committee. And under other, if we could consider adding a special meeting for June 28th at 10 a.m. for the purpose of discussing water quality. And I'm sure we'll come up with some other topics before then, and we'll make those known as well. And then we have one removal from the agenda. If we could remove from the consent agenda item number 4, contract with Windermere Township to enforce criminal ordinance violations. Sheriff Nelson just requested some more time to work with the township on that.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I can second.
Thank you. We've got a motion by Lovegren, seconded by Waldham to approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll look for approval of the minutes of the April 5th county board meeting and summary for publication.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the minutes of April 12th special meeting, committee of the whole.
I'll move.
Go ahead. I'll second. You go.
Got a motion by Moore, second by Lovegren to approve the April 12th committee of the whole minutes. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Opposed? And minutes, there are no reports and correspondence from staff, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you for a while. Remember, we did remove item number 4. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Lovegren. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Okay. County zoning ordinance amendment 2022-16, a public hearing. We're going to have a presentation by Caleb. There he is.
Hey, Caleb.
Good morning. And I'm with a slow internet speed at home, so I'm going to turn my video off, but I thought I'd say hello. I'm Caleb Anderson, the Land and Resources Manager in the Zoning and Solid Waste Office. So we have an ordinance in front of you today. It was primarily put together because Pine Lake Township has decided they would like to have zoning administered by the county within that township. So this requires an amendment to our county zoning ordinance, primarily in section 1.4.4, in which we list the townships and cities where the ordinance is effective. Along with that, we've adopted a zoning map for the township of the various districts, and that has been included with your packet. There's a lot of agricultural land, but there's also so there's a number of areas that are zoned agricultural, but then some along the main highways, there's rural residential zoning. So that was done in kind of cooperation between myself and the town board. So, and then the other component of this ordinance is amending the county septic system ordinance. About a year ago, our zoning board had put together some language on addressing recreational vehicles that are being lived in, where it's a common call that we get from communities throughout the county, where, you know, there's someone down the road who's living in an RV or a camper, and what do they need to have for septic facilities or wastewater or sewage, any of those types of things to help kind of keep it not a safety hazard. So currently our septic ordinance is silent on situations like that. So we had a draft about a year ago that the county board had some concerns for. So this has gone back to the zoning board. And I think the primary issue at that time was that the county board was not interested in a ordinance that would require any camper that's sitting out on somebody's property to have a septic system. And I think that was a shared interest of the zoning board as well, but maybe the language had some room for improvement. So this is a second attempt at kind of arriving at something that would satisfy all of our interests. So basically, you have to have some type of facilities for your camper if you're using it for more than semi-permanent or occasional use. One of the things a lot of times in these situations is they're receiving mail at the property, you know, and it's serving as their principal dwelling. But where that is much different than if someone just owns an RV that's back behind the house that's not really being used as a principal dwelling, that would not require any facilities. And then the third item on the ordinance, if it doesn't have current tabs but is being used as a principal dwelling, so maybe they aren't getting mail there, but clearly they're living there and it's not highway ready. That's kind of what we're after. And in those cases, it's not that someone would have to install a septic system, a full mound or anything. A compliant privy, something that has a tank under it or provided treatment, like on a sandy site, would be fine. Otherwise, the zoning board thought it would be okay to have a composting toilet or even a porta-john with a contract, so that people in these situations would have options. But also, so we have a tool where it is concerning and we're getting calls, so we have some type of means to work with that landowner to kind of make sure it's a safe situation. Any questions for me on that ordinance?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have one, Caleb. I really appreciate Pine Lake wanting to be a part of the zoning. So thank you for that. I think that it's be good partnership. But to the recreational vehicles, I do have a concern. You have being used for more than one, or being used for more than occasional or semi-permanent. So how would you describe that, I guess?
That is a great question. And the way some ordinances and other counties have dealt with that is, if it's being inhabited for greater than X number of days over a 6-month period or something. But so to have it more measurable makes it more enforceable, but to have it more measurable also makes it hard to actually track. So to be honest, I think that is the weakest part of this ordinance, in that it's not measurable. And I think we would primarily look at items 2 and 3 on the ordinance, where they're receiving mail and there's using it as a principal dwelling. And that item number 1, if there was some evidence that arose that you could kind of use that as the basis, that's when we would use it, the first item. So the answer is it depends. It's a weaker provision in the ordinance, but it might come in handy where in a unique situation.
So I think that it's too weak, and that it's going to be opening people up for having somebody come after them down the road for something that, there's 2 different visions on. Semi-permanent use, I can understand that, but my understanding of vocational and your understanding of vocational is going to be 2 different stories.
That's fair.
I think what we were trying, I'm not on the zoning board, but I think when I was here before, we were trying to figure out, there's a lot of people that live in a camper
Right.
as they're building their house.
Yeah.
And most of us that have done that have figured out how to get rid of our sewage in a safe manner, other than letting it run down the hill. And so whether or not that's, you have your own little buggy to take to dump, or if you have one of the pumpers stop by every couple weeks, ours can go about 2 weeks is about our limit.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to do something. So
I understand that.
I think it's a hard call, but when people pull an old camper in and now they're living there, that's their house.
They don't pull it out.
And how do we manage that?
Right.
And that's what they're trying to get at.
So, and I,
Sure.
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm part of, there's considerable discussion just about this. So the language ended up, we don't want to be the point where we're not gonna go look for a violation. It's to make it work so you have the least intrusion, where grandpa and grandma have grandkids come up for a weekend or something and they stay there for room or for fun. That's not an issue. They run in the house when they don't want to get showering. So the main sticking point is if there's water connected, then it's going to be more permanent. So that's the main part of that. And so if people hook up water to their camper, and that could be temporary too, but so that's why you go to some. So in the end, it was kind of, and I think there has to be some discretion, they're not going to go out there and say, oh, we got you now. It's just, you want to create that window where, okay, we get it, that's no problem. But if someone's living in it for months at a time, then it becomes an issue. And I think it's pretty easy for them to get through that if they get a complaint, because it's usually going to be complaint driven. Otherwise, who's going to know? Right. So they'll have witnesses saying, that these people have been going in and out, the mail comes here or whatever, that makes a difference too. So So sometimes it's nice to be vague.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes it is nice to be vague, but sometimes that just creates neighborhood issues too.
Sure, and but it's a step, right? So if it doesn't seem to be working, the board will come back with an amendment or correction or something, with more time to think about it. But at least it's a step in a direction that everybody can live with, I think.
Mhm.
I guess the other thing I would just add is that the calls that we do get on these are the ones that someone's living in these campers. We're not getting complaints about someone building a house and staying in a camper. So I guess, or someone using it just kind of as a guest bedroom for when their family members come. Those aren't the complaints that we receive. It's really kind of where someone truly is living in it and there are no sewage facilities at all. So.
Yeah, it's the only structure on a property.
Mhm. Yeah. When you see those all over the place, I understand the reason for this.
Yeah, but it's 2 weeks of deer season and it's a privy, you're good to go.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about a lot too. So it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to help you get where we were, and.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a question if I can, Mr. Chair. Caleb, under B, you refer to Article 4.06.01A. Where would I find that at? Because I just quickly looked it up. And I just put in, comes up state of Minnesota, US.
It's our county ordinance.
It's county, okay.
Well, it's in this ordinance itself. This is a tag on to 4.06.01. So.
That comes up brush control guidelines, 4.06.01.
No, it's right above it. So if you do not meet those, or if you meet the criterion 4.06.01A, that's the section right above it. Recreational vehicles.
So it's in the concept of ours.
So the last time that this was brought up, I had a person in my district that called. She has a camper in her driveway and her family will come and they'll stay there. And so like her granddaughters will stay out there. What you had talked about, or was it Steve, that the grandkids will stay out there or whatever, but they don't use the motorhome bathroom. They go into the house to use that bathroom. But it's used quite occasionally because they come a lot to visit grandma. So is that going to be an issue down the road, or is that something that's going to be bypassed? I mean, that's where my concern is that if somebody comes up and there's somebody that stays out there quite a bit because they're there with grandma, but they run in and out of the house a lot, that they would be affected by this.
Understood. So that would not meet 4.06.01A items 2 or 3 because they have a principal dwelling on the property, right?
Okay.
And then would it meet 4.06.01A1? I think not. And I think then we would not split hairs on is that occasional or not. And we wouldn't get those aren't calls that we've received in complaints on this issue. So I wouldn't foresee getting the phone call. And if we did, I guess I would, to me, that would sound like occasional use. And I would have a hard time disproving that it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, Josh.
Well, it'd be too, like, we've used it on our property and then you got them little holding tanks that you can dump the camper into and then wheel it over to your septic and dump it into that.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what you're going after, right, Caleb, is if you have something on the property. Yeah, so then it wouldn't matter.
So
Whether or not you use it.
if somebody did issue a complaint, because ours is sitting out there all the time, and
Right. We have
somebody
one
could
too.
issue a complaint that my brother or somebody's living there. But if you have a system that you can say, well, I got that little blue thing and we empty it in here, we drag it over there to the septic tank and dump it in there, you can't argue with that. That's allowable.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your chance in just a second, okay? Just a second here. We'll close this part down and then we'll open it up to the public. All right.
This is what I'm talking about though.
Yeah, but just procedurally, we'll have the board get done with their questions, then we'll open it up to the public. Any more questions from the board? Okay. See how easy that was? Now,
What's that?
now it's your turn.
Oh,
Can you come up to the mic, please, so they can hear you online?
Pine Lake Township has opted into the county's ordinances.
Yep.
Okay, we have got a problem with one spot. There, what is the county's ordinance on how many trailers can be on a place? You have anything there? We have got, my neighbor's got 4 trailers on there. 4 of them, there's 5, 6 trailers, but 4 of them got lights on. There's people living there all the time. You go to the door and they will not open up. But this is a Pine County issue because it's on the river.
Okay.
And now Pine County has done nothing with it. And I don't know if they've got sewer or what they've got because you don't want to walk around.
Let's,
Just a question.
yep, let's back up and get your name and what township you're from again?
I don't know, want to give that out.
Yeah,
Daryl Schoenrock,
okay,
Pine Lake Township.
Town Lake Township, thank you. Kelly or Caleb?
Yeah. So if it is, the rules change a little bit if it's in shoreland versus if it's not. So if it is in shoreland, generally you can only have 1 dwelling per property, and you may have 1 guest cottage if it's a larger property. There's a threshold at which you can have a guest cottage. So I guess we would have to look at, and you said trailer, so I don't know if we're talking about manufactured homes or campers. The ordinance only allows 2 campers, so that would be, so you could have 2 campers there. But if they're manufactured homes, we would have to look at when they were established. Did they predate 1993? In which case they'd be legal nonconformities. If not, then there's a chance that they were put on the property without permits and would be subject to a violation.
One was an old trailer house, was put in there many years ago. What year it is, I have no idea. And that they've tore the siding off, but there's a guy and a gal living in that one. And then there's at least 3 others that there's people living in. Then there's one little further back and one little further back this way. So all told, there's, I think, 7 campers there. And this is on 15 acres of land.
One thing I can say is that I believe you brought this to my attention when we were talking through you guys opting in, and we do have a current violation and enforcement action on a property that sounds a lot like this. I think it's the same one. So part of that is in process. And I'd be happy to chat with you more about that.
It's just that Pine County should have had jurisdiction over that when we went in with rivers and lakes.
Shoreline.
Right, the shorelands.
Shoreline.
And it sounds like they are in the process that is in litigation right now.
Okay.
But like I said, I mean, or maybe I didn't say it, but if we don't know about it, we can't do anything. So you brought it to my attention, so that kind of allowed us to do something.
Okay.
So we always like hearing from townships if there's issues that we should be aware of.
I guess that's about all I got on that subject. Wait.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that's might be dialed in got anything to say from the public's point of view?
I have something, Steve.
Yeah.
This is Gussie. I do think that licensing might be the way to go with some of this. I know Caleb did mention the license if it's not licensed. If it is licensed, you require a license, they can go to town and dump, so. And I don't see that on there on the list of Porta-John, valid pumping contract, receipts of pumping. So, you know, if they were to take it to town, and that's what I would do, I would drive it into town. So licensing may be maybe where you need to go with some of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? And we'll come back to the county board. Anybody else got any words of wisdom?
I just want to say I really appreciate the answers and the discussion on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I get something. I guess I would just, for the gentleman that took the time to come in and it's a concern, I would just recommend, yeah, if you're down here today, reach out and hopefully you can take the time, and Caleb can, to just follow up as long as you're down here. Just
Yeah, I think,
make sure you're talking about the same property and,
Caleb's well aware of
okay,
what we're talking about.
yeah,
okay.
I think they're on the same page.
Good,
The
good, yeah.
definition is a little hairy or gray or whatever you want to call it, you know, and
Yeah.
I thought this was the time to.
This is, you are absolutely right.
Just to clarify, we're talking about the same property.
Yep.
Here we are.
Oh, great, great.
You know, the hard part is you can call in and make the complaint, but it always has to take so much longer because we have to follow the proper steps to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't do any good.
Getting me off.
I want it now. That's the problem.
Any other words from the board? If not, we would consider adoption of the ordinance, amending Pine County zoning ordinance.
I will, what are we gonna move? 2022-16. Resolution for Pine County zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
Motion by Moore, or motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore, to approve the ordinance 22-16. One last chance for discussion. If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Caleb. Facilities Committee report. That one. You're up here.
Yeah, we met on the 6th, discussed the jail lights, the cost of them, and the project to redo them. Pete noted the door was shipped for the courthouse conference room. Once materials on site, it should take a few days to construct. I'm sure that's still just a supply chain issue that I think a lot of people are occurring.
The door came.
It did come, okay.
No knob though.
Maybe we can-
Mr. Chair, if I can give the down to the minute.
Sure.
Walls have been installed, the door has been installed, a temporary doorknob has been installed.
Good deal.
The TV has been installed, the carpet's been installed. The electrician is scheduled. Once the electrician does the remainder of his work, the furniture, the table will be moved in and the room will be ready to be used.
Great. Perfect.
That's pretty up to the minute.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the building up in Willow River and the bid process on that. And then what I liked about that is there was going to be a follow-up on the, there was the $64,000 charge for design, building and construction of it. And it's such a simple building. Yeah, such a simple shape building and simple layout. We questioned, you know, the price of that and if there's a way, and Mark was going to follow up on that. See if there's a way to get that maybe down a little bit since it's just such a simple construction, simple building, slab on grade. It just seemed like a big amount of money to spend for a design of such a simple building. What else are we talking about? Anything else going on there?
I think the lighting was converting to LED, right?
Yeah.
I think you asked about programs or something there. Is it
Yeah.
eligible?
And they were going to check on that too, because there is still some programs out there possibly that would take up some of that cost for the material at least. I think they also do cover some of the labor for any LED upgrades under energy conservation. We went on a tour of the impound lot and the maintenance building. And it was nice to see those facilities, and it's a little bit of a struggle yet with all the vehicles that I believe that are still going through impound. And due to COVID and everything, it's kind of getting congested down there, but they're working the best they can on that.
Is that right on here, this impound lot?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, you got
Wraps it up.
it's full, the impound.
Yeah.
We have to get rid of some stuff. There's a process for that too.
Yeah, I understand that. You just can't have an auction and clean it out.
One more thing I can, down at that impound lot, like the gate rollers that seem to be a concern, the opening and closing, they seem to work fine. I think just maybe a little more of a push, you gotta understand it is a big gate and it is something that's gonna take just a little more effort to move, but when we were there,
It was fine.
yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Personnel committee report. I sat in on that. Do you want to take that, Jeff?
Yeah, I can take it. We met April 11th. Health and Human Services recommend the hiring of Child Protection Service social worker and requests backfill of any subsequent vacancies that may occur to internal promotion or lateral transfer. This position has been intentionally left open since March of 2020 and has not been added and has been added to the 2022 HHS budget with a target hire date of July 1st. Should we just go through these and then?
Yeah, and then we can come back and
Okay, auditor treasurer recommend the hiring of a property appraiser with the target hire date of June 1st, 2022. Request backfill of any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. Sheriff's office in the jail, acknowledge the resignation of corrections officer Sean Mitchell, which is part-time effective March 23rd, 2022. Joel Long effective April 30th, and Hunter Graycar effective April 1st, 2022, and approve the backfill of the positions and any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. In the administrator's office, consider approval of temporary personnel policy 2022-1, employees referral bonus program. With that, I will make a motion to approve all them.
let's do the personnel thing and then we'll do the policy one
Okay,
separate.
sounds good. Yeah, then I'll go all the way up to D. How about that?
Okay. So we got a motion by Moore,
I'll second it.
a second by Lovegren. On all the transfers and hirings. Any discussion?
Just some, Mr. Chair. So on the Child Protective Services, that's the one we left open because of COVID.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
Right.
And then that was always in the budget. We just didn't put a body in it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they left it open, until COVID because it just
Okay.
not.
Yeah, so the new employee is in auditor treasurer.
Yep, and that is because we picked up what, 2 more or 3?
Total of 6
Okay.
contracts.
Okay, that the appraiser's office,
Okay.
or assessor's office picked up some new contracts with some townships. I would like, just on that, and this doesn't really go with it, but it does. With these contracts, I would, if you have any townships that have not opted in to our county assessing, their townships are paying more money to not have the county do the assessing. So,
But it's
that
their
is-
choice, right?
it's their choice, but their taxpayers are paying more money so they can have an assessor from a different county come in and appraise properties in our county. So
Can we get a list of them, Kelly? Thank you.
I already got one.
Oh, did you?
And then,
That position, we had approved that before.
Correct. It's in-
Appraiser.
Let's finish up with this, what we got on the table here right now, the
Okay.
motion for the personnel. We got a motion by Moore, seconded by Lovegren. Any discussion on those positions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
all right,
Opposed? And then let's take the temporary personnel policy 22-1, the employee referral bonus program.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can I say something before you go there?
yeah,
I missed this meeting and thank you for covering. But all the departments in the state are having problems recruiting. And they're throwing a lot of money at people. And I think this is a good, decent step. I like what you guys came up with and we
well,
have to do something. And you're right. And I love the theory of having our own employees, because then, that builds a relationship too. I think it's a good plan. I like it. The funding is my only question and how much we put into it.
we have a finite amount of money that we're gonna put into it, and
We're
we're
gonna do a set aside.
gonna assess it as we go along. But David, do you want to just give a quick explanation of what, the people in our HR department really put together based on some recommendations from board members?
Doesn't the ARPA funding qualify for recruiting employees?
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, thank you, members of the board. So in the policy, I will just highlight kind of sequentially through the policy. The policy allows for a referral bonus of $1,000. It would be payable, half of it the day of hire and half of it 6 months later or upon meeting some standards in the sheriff's office that they would have to meet. So there's an initial one half, and then there's a half if they, in essence, make it through probation. The money would come from ARPA funding. And so we estimate that if you wanted to allocate $25,000, that would be a sufficient amount to get the program rolling. Most employees are eligible. There are some employees who are not eligible. So if you are an elected official, attorney, sheriff, county commissioner, you're not eligible. We sure hope you still refer people to the county to work for us. If you're the county administrator, you are ineligible. If you are a human resources employee, so we have Jackie and Jen and Jessica. So because they can't divorce themselves from the process and the influence, they're excluded. Department heads of the hiring department. So if you're the public works department head and we're hiring a highway maintenance worker, you can't refer someone to your own department. If you are a manager or supervisor in the hiring process, you are ineligible, right? And so and if you're a family member. And so all of those carve outs are to try to make it so there's no possibility of the appearance of any impropriety. Like the only reason they got the job is because the county administrator wanted them hired and gets $1,000 for it. Well, we don't need that, right? We want to attract and retain quality employees in a way that's transparent and fair. Eligible positions, the policy puts the process to determine whether a position is eligible or not in HR, the department head and the administrator. So the department head, when they have a vacancy, would go to HR and request that the position be eligible for the hiring referral bonus. HR would review it and make a recommendation to me, and then I would make a final determination. My sense is, given the difficulty of recruiting most positions, that virtually all full-time positions would be eligible, right? And some positions we don't hire very often, so we don't have a history of being hard to fill. But if we had to fill a highway tech or an IT tech position, we know those are hard positions to fill just in the market. And so my My sense is that I would probably, as long as the department head and HR wanted it and had some basis to make it a designated hard to fill, that I would probably agree with that. And so I just wanted to make that clear in case there's any concern of what positions may or may not qualify. If they are part-time positions, say an AIS inspector, my sense is this would not be the right program if we're having trouble attracting those employees. It's probably a wages issue that we could address by some other more effective means. If you're an employee and you refer an employee and you are not in good standing when they're hired or when they complete their probationary period, you would not be eligible for the bonus. So you can't refer somebody and then leave or get into trouble, was the thinking. I think in a nutshell, that's how it would work. And if the positions, when they're posted internally, we would include a note if they're eligible, so employees would be aware. And I know Jackie's on the line too, and she has invested a lot of time and energy into researching and writing the policy. And so certainly she or I can answer any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Dave, why I'm a no on this is from just like what you said, you would hope that the people that are not eligible would still bring good candidates in. And as a person that hires and has employed, does employ people, that's the reason I would be no, because if you know of a good candidate and it's a great place to work, naturally, why wouldn't you just tell them to come in here? And then some of them that are not eligible, that's the reason you're saying you hope they do not bring somebody in. So that's just the reason I don't agree with that also.
So I think, and Dave, I think you maybe didn't say it exactly right. It's not that that you don't want them to refer them, it's just you wouldn't be eligible for the bonus. So,
Right.
yeah.
You're talking about if I worked there and I referred somebody, but then I got fired because of some reason, that I wouldn't get that referral?
No,
It's being a good place for you. We worded it perfectly, and that's the reason why.
No, and I understand your point, and if maybe I can restate it if it's. So I think if we have the right people in the organization, we're all actively trying to find good candidates to refer. And I think that's a legitimate point, right? And all of us at the table are ineligible for the bonus. It's not going to impact the way we approach trying to help recruit and encourage good employees or good candidates to apply. And I'm guessing that's probably true across the board, right? That the counter or maybe the nuance that I would put on it is there are some organizations that are doing more general employee bonuses to reward their current employees and to give some expression, of gratitude toward current employees, because we know it's a tight labor market. We have not done that. And I think that's a lot of employers have it, that's fine. This is one tool that we kind of I feel that sometimes like we were in a pinball game, right? Where we bounced around a little bit, trying to find the right target. And this was what I think became, in essence, in some ways, a compromise to say, we do have good employees. This is one way that if they do accomplish a task that benefits the county, we could reward them.
I think I like a lot of this. We used to be called the Pine County. If I worked there, if I was a boss, I would hire my friends or my relatives, and that's who got the jobs all the time. So I think having it so that if I'm one of the bosses, I can't get that reimbursement. I think that that's a good thing, because then I'm not gonna, you bring in your favorite people or your buddies or whatever, and this way it helps to get the employees that aren't just being hired because they know somebody type of thing. I think there was a lot of good time put into this.
I think I like it too. I think it's I don't think, I would still recommend working at Pine County to anybody.
Right.
I think it's a good place. I don't expect that I should get a bonus for that. But I think our workers, if they recommend somebody, they should be in this market till the market changes. I think we've kind of set aside $25,000, which is about 25 employees. If we could spend every nickel of that, and as we get close to the end of running out of money, reassess where we're at. Maybe the job market will change a lot by then. But I see Rod is sitting there. Rod could use about 8 or 11 people right now. 11 people right now. We all know what goes on in the jail. It's one of those positions where you can't say, well, let's just, okay, we're gonna lock her up and nobody has to come to work for a week. We're all gonna take a break, or on Friday, we'll see you Monday. You can't do that. And so we need workers there, and maybe this is a way we can help that situation out.
One thing I'd like to see added, I drove past a fast food restaurant the other day and they're giving sign-in bonuses. I think that that's going to be one way to get the employees too, is if we can get bonuses for if they sign up and come to Pine County and then pass all the requirements and, are able to keep their job for a run.
Can I speak to that?
Go ahead, Rod.
Point up there. My name's Rod Williamson, the jail administrator, and we discussed that very point as far as a hiring bonus versus a referral bonus. And we, because I worked with Jackie a lot on this also, felt it would be better to reward the people that we have right now because we want to keep them. There's a lot of turnover right now in corrections and law enforcement. So we really need to keep those people. And it's not just the dollars that's spent on it. There's a lot of other things that go along with it. So we felt if we can do a referral and help, because there's a lot of money, as Matt spoke up, there's a lot of money being thrown out there in a lot of areas. And
we have to compete.
Trying to compete with the state is out there with a $5,000 hiring bonus, and they have more positions open than I would really care to go through right now. So I think this is a good move on our end to help us out in that too. And I firmly believe, and it's one of those theories, if this is well used and well received, we're not going to spend a lot of money because we're going to have good people working and therefore no positions, and we're not spending it. So
I think it'd be helpful though if we did both. I guess that's my question. I didn't want to take the referral away, but if we did both, had the referral and the sign-up bonus?
I think,
I don't know if I have a thought on that, right?
I think I was only at one meeting. But when we talked about it there, I think they fleshed that out. And let's try this program and see where we get.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I think that was the
I got a
attitude.
little comment. Part of, I think, what the referral bonus is referring quality employer or people in there as well, where if you were gonna stick your neck out for somebody, that you want somebody decent, like you had said, friends and family, most of that is good. It's not bad, but we all know the departments or whatever, the horror stories of people, well, they don't do nothing because they know they can't get fired. Part of a hiring bonus is why do you need it? Which everybody needs it right now, but maybe there's just maybe if you're getting someone attracted to your place just for a hiring bonus, is that a quality person? So that's kind of what our thoughts were, I think, is what are you trying to make up for? And this is a way to reward current employees to get decent candidates.
So it's like there was a lot of good discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was more than one meeting we talked about this, wasn't it? So I will make a motion to approve it. If I didn't already.
I'll second.
No,
that.
you didn't. We got a motion by Moore, second by Lovegren. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Mr. Chair, could I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Was there to be any sort of a designation of money to be addressed in this or no?
That was part
I
of it,
think
right?
that came out of our
So I would
ARPA funding.
ask the maker of the motion if he included in his motion the $25,000.
Yes. Yes, I did.
Is that all right with you, Terry?
Yep, it is.
So pass 4-1. Okay, my ears heard. Thank you. County government appreciation. Resolution 2022-24 designates April 26th as County Government Appreciation Day and authorize the board chair and county administrator to sign. Oh, we're all part of county government that is sitting here, and it's a way that we're getting on the bandwagon to appreciate everybody that works in county government.
So we need a motion.
Yes,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-24.
I'll second.
a motion made by Moore, second by Waldham. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then we've got some things like National Correction Officers Week. Rod, you gonna take that one?
Let's keep it short.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Rod Williamson again, jail administrator for Pine County Sheriff's Office. We're presenting today request to recognize National Corrections Officer Week. To recognize of the resolution, I'm sorry, for National Corrections Officer Week, acknowledging 2022-23. But before acknowledging the resolution, I'd like to share a little background into the daily life of the corrections officer and why we take time out for this special recognition. On May 5th, 1984, President Ronald Reagan signed into order Corrections Week Proclamation 5187, recognizing the hard work and oftentimes unrecognized responsibilities of the corrections officer. Citizens generally understand the need for law enforcement in our communities. Deputies patrol our streets to protect and to serve. And when crimes are committed, they make arrests and criminals go to jail. The arrests make news headlines and deputies are recognized for their heroic actions, and our community feels safe with the criminals off the street. But law enforcement and protecting our community does not stop there. In fact, the arrest is only the tip of the iceberg and is a collective effort in protecting our community. Our Pine County corrections officers are very large and a vital piece to protecting our community. Most people are unaware of what is involved in housing inmates in our county jail and the responsibilities of a corrections officer as they keep our communities safe from the inside. Corrections officers have a dangerous but a rewarding job. Officers oversee men and women who have been arrested and are awaiting arraignment or trial, or who have already been convicted of a crime and are sentenced to serve a year or less in the county jail. Corrections officers are sometimes referred to as glorified babysitters by the community and are oftentimes less respected as members of law enforcement. In fact, the corrections officer is a highly trained professional skilled in first aid, CPR, AED use of force, tactics, taser, chemical irritant, use of restraints, interpersonal communications, direct supervision, report writing, emergency policies and procedures, and more importantly, suicide prevention and crisis intervention skills. That's in today's world, they're existing almost daily, considering the vast uptick in mentally ill individuals landing in our county jail. The corrections officer is a special person who must be able to respond to a medical situation at a moment's notice. They must be able to respond immediately to a fellow officer's call for aid in a unit of up to 60 inmates, armed with nothing more than their intellect and the behavior management skills learned and practiced every day. Corrections officers must be able to handle inmates twice their size and half their age. If an inmate attacks an officer either verbally or physically and the officer does not react, the officer is viewed a coward. If the officer protects themselves against great bodily harm, the officer is sometimes viewed a bully. At any time during the course of a shift, the corrections officer may be exposed to human feces, being spit on, bloodborne pathogens, airborne diseases, and yet remain cool and calm. Corrections officers are unable to work from the safety of their home, manage inmates, and hold meetings via computer monitors. Instead, they put on their badge, their duty gear, including a mask nowadays, and report for duty within the confines of the facility, committed to providing for the safety and security of everyone inside and the community they serve. The correctional officer must be the emergency medical caregiver, the tough guy, the counselor, good listener, social worker, educator, protector, and diplomat. With all the obstacles and challenges and the hidden risks a corrections officer must face, the men and women of Pine County Jail wear their uniform proudly, protecting and serving our communities from the inside. I'd like to end with just the insightful words from President Ronald Reagan from Proclamation 5187. And consider that this was written 38 years ago, but it still holds very true today in our ever-changing environment in the corrections officer world. President Reagan states, historically, corrections officers have been viewed as guards, occupying isolated and misunderstood positions in prisons and jails. In recent years, the duties of these officers have become increasingly complex and demanding. They are called upon to fill simultaneously custodial, supervisory, and counseling roles. The professionalism, dedication, and courage exhibited by these officers throughout the performance of these demanding and often conflicting roles deserve our utmost respect. The important work of corrections officers often does not receive the recognition from the public it deserves. It is appreciated. It is appropriate that we honor the many contributions and accomplishments of these men and women who are a vital component of the field of corrections. I'm Ronald Reagan, May 5th, 1984. So I believe before you have the recognition of the corrections officers and the employees of Pine County Resolution 2022-23. Tried to keep that short. That's why I read it.
Thanks, Rod.
I'll make the- Go ahead.
Yeah, I second.
All in favor?
No, they do a lot.
They do a
lot
lot.
of respect.
We do appreciate them, Ron.
So Lovegren made the motion.
Actually, Matt did.
Matt made the motion
JJ seconded it.
and JJ seconded. Okay. Any discussion? If not,
As I said, thanks to Rod for your, what you read there today. That was good. And going so far back to 1984, it's still true today. Thank you.
we do forget about those people. I mean, I try not to, but we're reminded every once in a while of something that goes on. And so give them a big high five when you get back. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see. Becky Foss, are you going to do the child care provider?
I sure am.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Becky Foss. I'm the Director of Pine County Health and Human Services. And I just want to first say 1984 isn't all that long ago for some of us. It feels like yesterday. I remember where I was. So just wanted to throw that out in the universe, probably dating myself. I'm here to talk about two things. The first thing is Child Care Appreciation Day, which is May 6th. So it's just right around the corner. So Pine County Health and Human Services has a daycare licensor on board. She also licenses child foster care, which I'll get into shortly as well. But we have a little over 30 licensed daycare homes, and we know how important these are to so much of everything we do in Pine County. It's so important for economic development. If there's a two-parent working home or a single parent household and they need childcare, we need to have some safe, nurturing childcare providers available to keep our economy running strong. And childcare providers put in so many hours and they don't have the best pay. And they put up with a lot of stuff, both from the children and from the parents sometimes. And so we put our heads together here at Pine County, just trying to figure out a way that we could show our appreciation. It's important to say thank you, which we are doing right now. But one thing we thought that would be helpful to both recruit and retain some child care providers is from May 1st through December 31st of this year. We have decided to waive initial licensing fees in the amount of $50 for people if they're interested in obtaining a daycare license locally here from the county. And I should add too, we typically license the smaller mom and pop daycare homes, not the huge centers. That's usually done by DHS. We are also going to be waiving the relicensing fees in a way to support our current childcare providers from May 1st of this year through April 30th, 2024. And the reason why we're doing that for 2 years is people usually get relicensed for a 2-year time frame. So through those events, we're trying to help bolster and keep our awesome childcare providers. We're also partnering with Pine Tech and Community College, and we're going to be hosting a childcare informational session on their campus on Monday, May 16th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock at night. We'll be having a light meal and some refreshments, and hope to see many people there. And now switching the focus a little bit to Child Foster Care Appreciation Month, we're also trying to continue to recruit and retain childcare foster homes. We know how important these are. I was chatting, I believe it was last month, to the county board about a foster parent support group. At that time we had 37 licensed foster homes. I believe that's up to 38, which seems like a lot, but most of those foster homes are licensed to take care of relatives. And so we are looking for people who want to take care of non-relatives through the foster care system. We are having an informational session on foster care on Monday, May 23rd, starting at 5:30 at the North Pine Government Center. And for both of these events, we'll be offering a free first aid kit for those who register and attend. That's one of the things that is needed for both of those licenses, is a first aid kit. So we're trying to help people along by providing that as an incentive. And I believe that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Two groups that we also can't forget about. We can't survive in this county without childcare providers and without foster care home people. And I think we've got a former foster care mother sitting right with us, and it's a tough job. You know, I mean, it's extremely tough. So thanks to all those people that do that service for us. There's no resolution we need to do. Okay.
Becky, I'd like to say thank you so much for all those people, because it's huge. So what you're doing to bring more people on, and then to support the people that are doing daycare and, you know, looking at foster care. Not having the license fee, I think, is going to be a big thing, because I think a lot of them are struggling right now too. And so I just really appreciate your thoughtfulness on this. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Becky.
We'll move on to the One Watershed, One Plan updates. Who's going to do it? You're going to do that.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. We talked about One Watershed, One Plan for a lot of years, it seems. And so now we are finally getting to the point of we're doing projects under those plans. So we have we have 4 watersheds that we're working under those plans. And with them finally getting under doing projects and things under them, we've got some revenues coming in, some expenditures going out for activities under those plans. For example, the Lower St. Croix, currently the zoning office is doing some water monitoring on Rock Lake. And so we'll be getting some reimbursement for staff time for doing that. And there's just a few other activities they're doing down for the Lower St. Croix. The Snake and the Kettle are both still in their planning process. So those are more to come. But then the Namaji also, we are working on a septic assessment program up on Net Lake. And so it's not doing septic inspections. So if we find a system that doesn't meet requirements, as long as the sewage isn't surfacing, they're not going to be required to fix it. We're just going to give them the resources, the knowledge to know why they should fix it and what the financial aspect of that could look like, because we have those great programs. And so before you today, I just wanted you guys to acknowledge and be informed of that Net Lake Septic Assessment Program. I know Caleb's talked to Matt about it since it's in his district. It's all going to be voluntary. Nothing's forced. So we think that we can do some good education and possibly get some systems updated that maybe are not. And then the second part of the request is just to consider committing the accounts for each of our watersheds, so the revenue and expenditure accounts for each of those plans. So we have money coming in, and sometimes we're going to get money ahead of time before we spend it. So we need to make sure that's accounted for separately than just the regular county general funds, because we always have to do reports on how did we spend it. And so that is my request today.
I'm a little confused about still after all these years with the one watershed, one plan, because we have people that are doing stuff right now with the lower St. Croix watershed, and they're getting funding from the Clean Water Act or whatever, and they're doing work on farms in Pine County. Is that the money you're talking about that flows through our county?
Potentially, if it's a project that we are administering. So, for example, like the Rock Lake water stuff. So we're going to have, for example, some lab testing for the water too. And so that potentially is going to be reimbursed as well. So we've got to have a place that we pay those expenses out of, and then a place for us to get reimbursed from those grants.
And some of it goes directly to our soil and water staff, but it doesn't stop at the county, right?
It depends on what you're talking about, because we do annually get that Bowser water planning grant.
Right.
And we have elected to send that over to the soil and water office. And that's in the mid-teen thousand, like 15 to 20,000, somewhere in there. And then we also send them the match for that grant.
Where does the match for the grant come from?
Levy dollars.
Okay.
I just, we got soil and water that still does what they do. And then we've got these 4 watersheds that cover every square inch of our entire county that seem to be doing the same things.
Right. And I'm a little interested to see, as more of these one watershed, one plans, get up and running, are those Bowser block grants that we get every year going to go away? I think that's been our question from day one. Really.
Day one, and depending on when you ask that question, they kind of said, yes, they're going to go to the one watershed, one plan. The Bowser people thought so, but
But it hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened yet. So I don't know if you got to get a critical mass. I don't know.
The state has a surplus, so.
Yeah.
You need action on this?
Yes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Lovegren to go ahead with the, what do we call it? The Net Lake? Is that what we're approving?
So I was just hoping that you would acknowledge that program out on Net Lake, but then I do need you to approve or consider approving of committing those specific accounts.
Okay.
For the program.
So that's what we're doing with
Yep.
motion. We're committing these accounts.
4, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then we need to approve the Kettle River St. Croix watershed planned consultant contract.
I can
Okay, Caleb.
speak up to that. So here is an example where we're acting as the fiscal agent on the Kettle River Watershed Plan. So those accounts that you just created will be used for administration of this grant. So this contract is with Houston Engineering, and they'll help with meeting facilitation, as well as kind of some of the more technical needs for planning, running hydrologic models, things like that. And kind of just a consultant to be on retainer, more or less, to assist us with plan writing as needed. And so it's a contract has been negotiated that is in alignment with the budget that was approved on the state contract.
And it really doesn't cost Pine County dollars at all. It comes out of the one watershed, one plan money.
I'll move that too, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Second.
got a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore to approve the contract with Houston Engineering. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. First quarter budget report.
Well, as usual, at the first quarter, it is really hard to take too much because we're hardly into the year. Other than at this point, there is nothing budget-wise that seems out of ordinary or is a concern. And so I've got a couple of slides that were in the packet that I'll review. The first one just looks at the whole county, calls out the three major funds, the general fund, health and human services, and road and bridge, and then the total of all funds. And the percentages spent are all below 25%. And so we're a quarter of the way through the year. So that's a good sign. We know that revenues shown in red on the graph are always behind just because they tend to lag. But all of them look about where we would expect them at this time of year. Road and bridge, typically they get an early year settlement of county state aid funds. And so their revenue looks pretty good. But this, when we talk about fund balance and reserves and cash flow, this is the reason that the county needs to have some fund balance, because for the first half of the year, there's a lot more spending than there is income. And then chart 2 just looks at revenue in some of the general fund departments that have significant revenue. Everything looks in about where it should. This graph shows the last 3 years. And so you can see 2020, 2021, 2022 at the end of the first quarter and how they compare. You'll note if you look at planning and zoning, the revenues are really high. That's that $97,000 that Kelly just talked about. So that's a revenue that was not budgeted in planning and zoning. This chart just looks at the the revenues. I'm sorry, I'm looking so crooked here at my graph. It's the expenditures by percent for the larger general fund departments. Ryan wanted me to call out IT and note that it is well above 25%.
We have to rein him in.
And typically, the recorder's office in the first quarter is also a little bit high. Those tend to be contracts that are done at the beginning of the year to run for the whole year. And so it's just early payments, nothing unusual or unexpected. This graph just looks at that same data, but the red line is this year, first quarter, and the red columns, and the black line is the average of the 3 years. And so where, like on commissioners, where the black line is below the red column, that means this year the spending is a little bit higher as a percent versus the auditor, where the spending is a little bit lower than the average, but nothing is really out of whack on this graph. And then chart 4 just looks at health and human services by major division. So income maintenance, social services, and public health. And everything is really where we would expect it, no surprises. And so are there any questions on kind of financially where we stand at the end of the first quarter.
My only question, David, on court security, are they getting back to a normal, what we would call court schedule? So we're gonna have to provide those people again, the bailiffs and all that stuff?
We would expect that expenses will increase. We did budget, I'll say a normal budget, $100-ish thousand is what our normal budget in court security is. The first quarter was low. Rod did comment when he got here that he was planning to bring some correction officers up here, but they are short-staffed and it's a court day. And so there was nobody who could get away to come up. But I think it does speak to the idea that courts are in person and more active. And so I would expect the next 3 quarters, we would be normal by the end of the year.
That track and Reese with what you're seeing?
It is, yeah. I've been to court a lot more now physically, so
That's
other than virtually. Yeah, I am too, actually.
Well, you think about, so many of those things just got pushed back. So they're still gonna show up, but we got a lot of catch up to do. I would think, I don't know. They didn't catch up all out, I don't think. Yeah.
Also in your packet was just 1 page on the strategic plan goal updates. I think most of these or all of them have been separately reported at various times during the quarter. But I present them just to recap and then ask if there's any questions on anything.
Any? Thanks, David. Commissioner updates, East Central Solid Waste. A contract has been offered to a new assistant director. Hopefully he takes it. He's a Minnesota, he's not a boy anymore, he's a man, but he's worked in the solid waste industry in private and public landfills his life. He goes, I'm one of those weirdos that thought, this is what I want to do. Who once wakes up when they're 20 years old and says, I want to be a solid waste operator? But he's one of those people, and he's done some pretty neat things with the thing that caught my eye about him is has not been afraid to try different things just because somebody said we tried that 30 years ago and it didn't work. He's working a landfill just outside of Washington, DC in Fairfax County, which is a lot more densely populated than East Central Minnesota. But he grew up in the Elk River area, so he's familiar. He's actually consulted at our landfill a time or two over the years when he's worked for other companies. But this facility he's been at right now takes in probably more garbage in a month than we take in a year. So he's up on how to handle stuff and into gasification, recycling. So I'm excited. I hope it works out contract wise. Regional library.
A lot of what they talked about this time was the programs that they had and the people that they serve. So they have, because of COVID and because people are still kind of not going into the libraries as much, they do a lot of programs where you can go do the take home projects. So they had our whole region, they had 635 projects that were take home and reading challenges and that kind of stuff. And they served 20,718 people on the take and make projects. So that was a big part. And then how they're going to be spending their ARPA money. They have 122,000 in ARPA money. So, and then the other thing that we had talked about before is the open access in Hinckley, where they were going to have that open where you could go after hours. And that's kind of on hold because Hinckley's looking at some different options and the library may be moving. So, yeah.
All right. Minnesota Area Transportation Partnership, I dialed into that last week. There's some huge, if you guys have all been to Duluth and you see that, we've all driven on that entanglement of bridges and whatever that goes on up there. And in the last year, you've seen them begin construction on that, and that's gonna consume hundreds of millions of dollars. And then also the Bolotnik Bridge is gonna get replaced. One item of interest on that is there is a Pine County engineer. I call him a kid because he was a kid when I first knew him. Worked on the design of the Bolotnik Bridge, the new bridge. The company he works for he still lives in Pine City. His wife teaches at East Central, so they're hometown folks. And it's kind of neat to know that we've raised up somebody that got to that level that he's building a $300 million bridge for us. And he grew up right here and he still lives here. So that's pretty cool. Sorry. So let's see, soil and water.
Yeah, I did go to that. It was mostly just normal business, but they did talk a little bit. They did make an offer to a second forester, a part-time, and they accepted. Can't remember, they're out of Iowa. They're coming up from Iowa. So he had some stuff to finish down there before coming up here. They did have some discussion about possibly making it full-time. So a second full-time, and or partnering with maybe a neighboring county to have 1.5 and then.
But for their management plan stuff?
Yeah, I think that's what it was for. So it's kind of exciting, but one thing they said is they really talked to Knabec a lot because they don't have a forester at all, but they weren't interested. So it's like, well, and they said they get a lot of calls from people over there that want to do stuff. But it was interesting. Talked a little bit about the tree sales. He was almost sold out. Had one bundle of something. I can't remember what it was. So if you need something, I actually was gonna ask, but I don't have a tree planter. So I know.
I got one.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's kind of, they had some bank signers. Paul is really getting things.
He's really
straightened up.
Difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, he even said, he goes, every week it's like something else comes up that, you just, like he wasn't on a Verizon thing, so he couldn't buy somebody a phone. They had to get authorization from the board to do that, so just some stuff, but he's doing a great job.
They're gonna be busy with the Kettle River stuff.
Yeah.
He's talked about coming here to give an update too, and he said, and then I keep getting so busy that
Law library.
I was just looking at that. So we had to approve our new annual subscription for a print stuff, the LexisNexis is called, but that's all the, I don't even know, Reese, it's more like the what's changed over the year, right? Is what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty much, just kind of that increase.
It was a lot of money. It's like $2,500 or something like that. I can't remember. I have it here somewhere, but yeah.
You done?
Nope. And then otherwise they did buy a new bookshelf thing to put like loose leaf materials and stuff. And then we just went over our financials and that.
You have something, Matt?
I do. I have another, but I think I'll knock it off before we talk about the insurance.
Okay.
We had our Kettle River 1 Watershed 1 plan meeting, and just because of the size of it, and we always have that kickoff. We talked about it last time. We're gonna have 2, one up in Moose Lake because part of it's in Nemadji too. Part of it's in Carleton County too. It butts up against Nemadji, and then we're gonna have one at Osprey Wild. We budgeted that those gonna be June 3rd for Osprey Wilds and June 10th with a total budget of $9,000 for the food and all this stuff. And that's just staff time where there's gonna be staff there. You know, it's gonna be like just a walk through information. Like, yeah, so it'll be fun. The kickoff up in Nemadji went real well when we had that one. So. And I think this was just kind of just, that's the. Yep.
Insurance committee,
That,
insurance.
oh, you want to start, Jerry?
Okay,
That's a lot.
actually, it was really interesting. Our reserves are down 2%. We're 2% light from the expected. However, we were told not to be concerned. So a lot of what he went through, he kept saying, because of the way that it is, and because right now we're still doing the payments for last year, a lot of that gets paid out in the beginning quarter of this year. So he said, you know, that it's not to be concerning, that he thinks that it'll all work out good as long as we all behave ourselves. But one of the things that we found is we have a hard time with optical here. People will go to Walmart or they'll go to Pine Eye, is the majority of our employees go there. And Pine Eye has been working really hard with United Healthcare to get it so that our employees can go there. However, United Healthcare hasn't worked as well with them. And so what we found out, or what Justin found out, was that there is a program called Spectrum that we should have had all along. And then if we would have had Spectrum, it wouldn't have been an issue for Pine Eye people. So that's something that we're going to get ongoing, so that'll take care of that problem. Walmart is still going to be a problem because the optometrist can choose and pick who he wants to utilize for insurances, and they have not taken that one on. So, but at least we'll get it fixed for Pine Eye, and they've got the eye doctors that they can handle the big.
So is that,
Right there was, yeah, it was,
that,
they, Spectrum, we had Navigard in place as an intro you could go through, but Spectrum's been there the whole time.
And they've never, ever
But
presented.
they've never even thought about it, which would have solved a lot of issues.
so are they in
United
here?
Healthcare was just being difficult
Yes.
with, so that's all it was. And they're a big national organization. And we're kind of used to, you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield kind of more centered around here and,
When they're more user-friendly.
yeah, more user-friendly and pay attention.
So how do they work with United Healthcare? Because we pay United Healthcare,
How does who work with United Healthcare?
Spectrum.
Mr. Chair, I think I can answer your question.
Okay,
United Healthcare has a medical network and a vision or optical network.
Yeah.
Pine Eye is not in their medical network. Pine Eye is in their Spectra optical network. So whatever switches and levers United Healthcare can move on their end, they just say Spectra and they're in network.
It's goofy.
well, who
So
didn't figure that out for a year?
I
They're
think
not playing that nice.
one of the interesting comments that they said was dealing with United Healthcare is like dealing with a third grader, where we're used to dealing with adults. So they just said, you know, dealing with the people with United Healthcare, it's really been difficult. You'll call them with a question and it might take them 2 weeks to get back to you, where we're used to going to Blue Cross Blue Shield and you have the answer within a day. So I think it's been really hard for Jackie and Justin to be working with United Healthcare and try to get, and this is a really good example, is Spectrum should have been offered to us in the very, very beginning. And we've talked to them about these eye issues and it's never been brought up until a year and a half later, you know, so.
It's hard to say if it was just an oversight because they're so big or if they were just have something going, who knows? You know,
I don't know.
either way, it's not good for business for us.
So looking ahead a few months, do we have to rebid our insurance carrier this year?
We are going to go out for rebid and see what can be done.
We haven't decided, right?
I think that it was to go do some checking to see, and then we'll decide in June.
I think that's gonna be a decision we're gonna have to sit down and decide if we stick with them one more year and kind of get, so we're in better shape to make a move, you know, with whoever. But there's a lot more to cover us. We're not done.
Yeah. So another big thing is we have VIBA accounts right now. So you've got your VIBAs, you've got your HSA, and you've got FSA. And what's the name of that company that we have? Further.
WEX.
So we go through Further. So Further is Further sold to, or they're giving, I think they sold to WEX. So everything was going to go to WEX, where they would handle, because Further won't be doing Viva anymore. So we were gonna go to Wex, but then Justin came back and he said that there is a company called MedSurity, which is local. They're out of Minnetonka, and the gentleman that started MedSurity is the one that was in on the beginning of Further. So he knows how it all works, and he knows, the investments and everything that goes with it. So we're looking at going to MedSurity, which would be happening sometime probably in September.
And the
I
problem,
just finally figured out Further.
I know. Well, this is going to be good because you're going to have like a 2-week blackout period on
Yeah.
Further, where so all the employees that use this are not going to be able to utilize that for about 2 weeks because they've got to take all of your account information from Further and put it into a MedSurity, make sure that the numbers are the same from beginning to end, so that there'll be like a 2-week blackout period where you can't.
And then we'll get a new credit card that we
Yeah,
gotta
you'll get a
send
new
to
card and everything.
whoever we buy stuff.
And if you have investments, you'll have to reset all of that up. So, yeah,
the change was gonna happen anyway.
right.
Blackout was gonna happen, and Justin just was thinking this is our opportunity to look at some other ones that couldn't manage the same thing.
And MedSurity actually offers more. They offer, they'll work with our Cobra, and they'll work with our retirees if we choose to do that. So, they'll do more for us than WebEx would do.
And a little cheaper.
WebEx, yes, and they were cheaper. The other thing that was interesting is that we have heard from many employees that we're paying more in prescriptions, that our prescriptions through United Healthcare are costing a lot. And so Justin did the best that he could to analyze what the difference in those costs are, because United Healthcare wouldn't give them their numbers. So he kind of, and what he had stated, I'll use prednisone. I have three different prednisone prescriptions. They're all different milligrams, but he had to do prednisone because it comes through his prednisone. So, it was really a challenge for him. I can't imagine what he went through.
Yeah, and Blue Cross Blue Shield had a lot cheaper.
They are cheaper, yeah.
On the prescription side. And what makes it, it's not a big number on probably the most of the ones, but it's still a number. But interesting, it's like a third of our premium roughly is prescription stuff of our total premium. So
I didn't realize that they get prescription rebates. So that was me yesterday. So for instance, Blue Cross Blue Shield gets a rebate, but theirs might be a lighter rebate that they get, but then we paid more to have them. Where United Healthcare, they get a higher rebate is what's figured, but we pay less to get them. So it's like, where's the balance on that? How do you justify which plans to go with all that information? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys figure it out.
It was a really interesting meeting yesterday.
that was a long meeting, Steve. You would have felt it almost.
I'm glad I'm not on that committee.
Yeah. I have a couple others.
Yeah.
So I've been sitting in on the NACO TNT meetings, and one of them is the federal government has found that China's taking over our innovation and that we need to strengthen our technology and manufacturing. So they're going to have some grants coming out to help us so that we can utilize and start more of our manufacturing, our technology, and bringing that more to the US and not going so far outside. One of the things that they had said was that China, where did I put that one? China just did they did a $15 billion to grow their technology. We're not going to be that high. What? Oh. So anyways, if you know of people who are looking at starting businesses or whatever, it's a good time to do that because we'll have grants that are going to be coming up. We've done 2 billion, or 200 billion is authorized, 45 billion through Senate and 52 billion through the semiconductors. So that I thought was interesting. And then sitting through the cyber policy, the next generation 911, there's zero movement yet, but they're expecting that to be a big one. And I'm not sure where Pine County is with that one. So that'll be interesting.
We're in pretty good shape, according to
911
Ryan.
with the next generation 911.
Yes.
Okay.
We've been following that through that Northeast
Oh, good.
group that I belong to.
I do have to say that sitting in on these meetings and stuff, it's always exciting because they can say, you have to do this. And I'll say, yep, we've got that, and so Ryan, you are very good at staying up on that. There's also affordable connectivity, which they're using RDOF money. So I didn't realize we're eligible to get money back for our broadband because Jerry's on Social Security. So it pays to get old and also disabled. So, you know, if there's people that are having a hard time paying their internet bills, you do have some different options where you can get some affordable connectivity, but we have to work with our providers to make sure that they cover that. And then I also had a SHAC meeting. But that was just kind of same old, same old.
Okay. We do have some broadband tomorrow. Terry and I, we've got a broadband meeting coming up, so in touch with that. We do have some projects that are on the cusp of moving forward. Got some grant money, but there's quite a bit of lag time between the time when Congressman Stauber's office calls up David and says, you've got the award, to when they can, SCI can actually start their work. It's like not days, not weeks, months.
And we don't know for sure what the procurement process for a vendor is. And so whether it's SCI or not, I don't know, commit at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of pages of stuff that haven't been even sent to us that would Leslie can begin reading to let us know. Really, I think they're still writing the rules is what the deal is.
I feel like Mr. Schoenrock, you know, it's been accepted, give me the money now, I want it done.
Yeah. No, that's the way we think because that's the way we kind of think it should be. But I think that's it for updates. June 28th, we're looking at a committee of the whole meeting. And put it on your calendar.
10 o'clock.
10.
Somebody will put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Make sure it gets on our calendar.
It is.
Anything else? I think we're done. Okay, well, you're officially declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Let's see.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't looked at that again. Actually,
Thanks for coming, Gussie.
Have a good week, everyone.
You too.
Yep.